Which one do you think is the best hamstring flexibility stretch? Stop! You need to fully watch my previous video, since this is actually lesson 2 of hamstring assisted stretch mastery. You might not be ready to watch this, but anyway, there is nothing wrong with trying. Let's move on. Last time we differentiate the term and relationship of proximal to distal or the distal to proximal. For review with application, pay attention to the following photos. The proximal hand here is your left hand side. Since it is placed near the center of your body in relation to your right hand. The distal hand here is your right hand side. Since it is placed far from the center of the body in relation to your left hand. I'll give you another example. You're going to stretch anatomically the distal attachment of the hamstring in this lesson, which is located at the back of your knee. It is distally presented since it is far from the center of the body in relation to the proximal attachment of the hamstring. Your sit bone is considered anatomically as proximal attachment of the hamstring, since it is near the center of the body in relation to your distal attachment of the hamstring, which is at the back of your knee. For now, let's just move away from the topic for a while. I just want to give you a little bit of tough love regarding health benefits of learning. Learning is a form of healthy workout to your brain. Imagine when you are lifting weights. Is there going to be a positive change if you just lift 2 pounds dumbbell for life? What will happen if you're going to challenge your muscle with 5 pounds of dumbbell this time? And then you keep doing it and adding more weights every week. Does it make your muscle sore a little bit? Pretty much you can consider it as pain, but you like it. You know it's good for you. And that's exactly how you need to do it with your muscle. Your muscle need to be confused and overwhelmed to get results. Same process in learning. Getting confused and getting overwhelmed is good for you. It is good for the health of your brain. Remember what I said before. Every time you're confused, every time you're overwhelmed, you celebrate. So please, don't get frustrated. Eventually you will get used to it, because I believe in you. Let's compare the movement of the hips to this following stretch exercise. First, doing a hamstring self-stretching. As you can see, a lot of motion of the hips and the other leg. The second exercise is a one-on-one assisted stretch without the straps on the hips. Slight to moderate movement of the hips in this case. Now, still a one-on-one assisted stretch, but with a strap on the hips. Pretty much stable, attractively done with full control of the hip joint. Comparing these 3 ways to stretch the hamstring gives you an idea why isolated stretching with proper stabilization using a strap or a belt is different from self-stretch. Let me give you some rules to think about. The more inflexible you are, or the more tight you are, the more difficult for you to self-stretch your body. It is difficult to self-stretch your hamstring. Beside being below your ideal range of motion, your body is usually has less ability to relax. The ability to consciously relax your body is crucial to achieving a lower resistance coming from your muscle or muscles that is naturally protecting your body, especially if you experience stretching for the first time. Since, in the first place, muscle or muscles are the number one resistance that you will encounter for every unfamiliar stretch you applied. This is the reason why the best initial position of a stretch subject is in horizontal or lying down position. In this way, it will create less resistance coming from the muscle and an environment that promotes comfortable sense of position. Handful of information, isn't it? Now, let's see the next stretch technique, which is lesson 2. Exactly, slight modification and progression from your previous lesson. In this session, you will be holding with your proximal hand the upper leg to its full length or to its full stretched position before applying the same stretch to the distal attachment area that you did in our previous video. As you can see here, the stable thigh hip joint is off the 90-degree angle. You will be applying more intense stretch to the hamstring as you move the knee joint with your distal hand. Just like I mentioned in before, the stretch sensation on the correct target area is more important in the beginning than forcing the knee joint to straighten and stretched. Your stretch intensity or stretch pressure will be based upon several factors. For this video, it will depend on the non-moving parts of the body. The more stable the hip that is strapped down on the table, the more intense your subject will feel an accurate spot of area that is getting stretched. But of course, working together with the stability strength of your proximal hand that is holding the upper thigh. Resetting. Resetting is as important as the applied stretch you are applying, as you can see here in slow motion. For every applied stretch repetition, it is followed by a semi-range of motion or a full range of motion stretch released. At least more than 50% of your subject's current range of motion. Now, let's see how you do it to another subject. This is the healthy and younger female with more flexibility than the 80-year-old male. As you progressively and gradually increase your stretch pressure, more resetting is required. As you perform the resetting release, your subject is less apprehended to tense his or her muscles, since the resetting is slowly eases out the stretch irritation sensation or feeling. And instead, your repetitive resetting creates more relaxation after every applied stretch pressure repetition. a very important point to consider. Therefore, you will likely produce more range of motion on your target area of applied stretch. Can this be done without a strap belt on the hip? A very common question. Yes, it is doable. But depending on how strong is your hand and the body frame size difference of you and your subject, stretch bodywork is like boxing competition. A flyweight boxer will not work to fight a very heavyweight contender. Make sense? And of course, stabilization will depend on your many different goals. However, it is no-brainer that a fully stable and relaxed hip that is strapped down will be more effective to isolate the stretch target than without it. The stronger you need to apply the stretch, the more stability you need. For a beginner and stretch-sensitive subject, this is for delicate and soft-hearted people. Maybe light intensity stretch is enough. Therefore, stabilization will be less as well. In this stretch video, you are still targeting the distal attachment of the hamstring. If you are directly facing your subject, the point of the knee that you are moving should be held pointing to the subject's same side of the shoulder, or in medical term, the ipsilaterally directed to the shoulder. This will stress and stretch specifically the semitendinosus muscle. Semitendinosus muscle is one of the muscle that is oriented right in the middle. This is also the easiest and the most common line to be stretched. Do you want to know a secret? I will give you a stretch secret that an average stretch therapist usually does not know. Going back to the statement that semitendinosus muscle is the easiest to stretch, if this is the case, then this line or direction of stretch is the least important compared to the other angle or other muscle of the hamstring. For the meantime, just take note of that and ponder on that. Or leave a comment below and tell me what do you think. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below and click on the bell and turn on your notifications. Thank you for listening. This is Jace Lee. I am an active, isolated stretch practitioner.